Morning, afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be on this big, beautiful planet we call home. And welcome to the Drinks and Dave Show. Hello, Dave. How are you?
Hey, Dave, how's it going? Hey, Dave, your mic is cutting in and out. I thought we got that all fixed up.
Well, I think is it better now? Probably had to do with the music because I was just rocking.
You were
So how was your vacation?
You know what? I want to say I'm really upset about something, Dave.
What's that?
That transportation Star Trek style has not come through yet because
Oh, you
you're
mean transporters
relaxed,
and
you're
stuff?
having a great vacation, and then you got to sit your butt on that airplane, and it just destroys the right. Your butt's sweating, your arms are like this, and it's just like if
Yeah,
you
but
could
but
go
the
from vacation to your bed, get
well,
that
yeah,
good
that opens up a whole nother conversation, which we don't think we can talk
not
about. But
not
that's
not your
beside the
bed.
point. So, what are you drinking tonight?
You know what? I had to apologize to our guest already. I was gonna do coffee out of respect, but then I thought, well, in 20 minutes I'm gonna be drinking. Yes, yes, I know you got the coffee. That I'd be drinking cold coffee. So tonight we're doing Compass Box Flamin' Heart. It's just the love that we've got for coffee, huh? That's
Nice.
what I'm drinking today.
Well, I am having a nice anniversary, 1964 anniversary series Padron, and a nice cup of dark roast coffee because real men drink dark
Yeah,
roast. But
yeah.
Greg will tell us that. But let's welcome everybody first. So far we have you, me, and Tiger Lily. Hey, welcome everybody. so
We got a few other
hopefully,
folks that haven't
hopefully,
chimed in yet.
hopefully people will be coming back. So tell us a little bit about your vacation. Did you have a good idea? A good time overall?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So we've been to Hawaii, but we've never been to Kauai. We went to Kauai this time. Totally different vibe. We've been to Maui the other two times, and I have to, everywhere we went, they said, "What do you like better?" And I think if we went back again, it would probably be Maui. My wife's trying to talk to me into Kauai again. Uh, it's you know what's weird? It is green. It's gorgeous, but half the roads, more than half the roads, when you're driving down, you see grass. They got grass, shoulder high, way up above the roads, and you're looking around, and unless you see the mountains, you're looking at grass. So that was a little bit odd, but
Well, there's
we saw beautiful things.
there's probably things that are hidden in the grass that certain people there probably don't want anybody else to see, like certain
That
types of
could be.
flora and fauna that may not be legal in the state of Hawaii. And I just realized something that the five people that are here, the reason why it's showing this way is we've got some people. At your channel, some people at my channel, but I know that Tig Lily is excited because this person I know from a fact, and Greg, you'll like this when you come in, is she drinks at least 7 pots of coffee a day. So that will be really really good. You may be able to retire just on her buying stuff for you. And without further ado, what do you say, Dave? Do you want to bring in our?
Is there somebody at the door, Dave?
Let me check and see if there's somebody at the door.
Hey,
Thanks for letting me in. My God, I've been outside banging on the door.
we're old.
Aloha.
Well,
Hey, Greg.
hello. So, ladies and gentlemen, first off, let's welcome Greg Berkowitz with a good barfly clap, which nobody can hear, from Berk's Beans Coffee. We certainly appreciate you joining us. And we're going to take questions from all of you as we go forward. Major Rich is here, Tig Lily, and some other people. So, Greg, real quick, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the Java business.
That's a big question. I got in by accident. It wasn't on purpose. I started this company with my wife about 3 years ago, right at the pandemic, and I like to get into hobbies. I want to get involved in things, and one of the things that I used to love doing is I still do smoking meats. And everyone's like, "Oh, Greg, you got to go open a restaurant." I'm like, "Hell no." Restaurants, you'll go out of business in 12 months or less. I mean, if you're lucky to make it to 2 years, that's a miracle. And
Sure.
and so I got a coffee roaster, and I started roasting. And the problem I've got with anything that I do, I don't go halfway. I go all the way. and and I just started learning, and I got the same sensation of the roast smoking the meats. I'm like, this is fun. And it just started growing. We started out of our house, and now we have a place in Concord that it's a roastery, and it's been growing consistently. And Nurse Dave. He found me on social media. I do a lot of content, and I do a lot of live coffee roasting, so people can learn and be a part of the process. And we
Yeah,
wanted to bring, yeah,
let me tell them a little bit about this. So, the kids were into the TikToks, right? As they say, and they watched it so much. I finally was going to be like, okay, let me see what this TikTok is about. And so I download it. It sucks you right in. But needless to say, my TikTok feed and my kids are very, very different. They've got 20-second videos, and I've got things about fighter jets and this and that that they're not interested. But somehow I come across this guy listening to yacht rock in his garage, roasting coffee, singing along, dancing, and then he's either interacting with the folks, and he goes, "Hey, if you place an order and let me know, I'll roast your coffee live here on the stream. You can watch me roast it, and I'll send it out the next day." And I'm like, "That's pretty cool." And come to find out, he just lives over the bay. This is our first time really
yeah.
interacting other than email.
Oh,
But
wow.
I thought that's pretty cool that he's reaching out and really trying to interact with his customers.
Well, and let me be the voice of reason here. He said a couple of things right out of the gate that I remember. He says, "I love to get into hobbies." There's one. Two, I go all in on my hobbies. There's two. Well, one thing I want you to think of, Greg, in the future is think of something called the Central Enablement Center. And if you come visit us over on the Shaving Cadre, you'll see that most of us, all 800 members, when we get into a hobby, we go in full bore. And when you said smoking meats, I know somebody just went, "Hey," and the coffee, "Hey." So this is like kismet, I think.
It definitely is, and it was almost to the point I was going to say. Dave and I have never met, but we were almost on vacation together. We were off by a week at the same
I
place.
saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, Greg was in Kauai just before we went.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but but funny enough, and that's kind of how we got into. Well, sorry, Dave. I don't know about you, but that's kind of how I got into coffee. We're part of this shaving forum, but they've got threads for scotch, cigars, coffee. People talk smoked meats and all this stuff. And same thing, you got a bunch of dudes that get into a hobby and go neck deep into the thing, and that's how I hadn't gotten into coffee. And so I started learning about pour overs and this and that. And then through because you can custom order coffee from Greg, I would order one bean and several different roasts to see what different a roast make, and you see what different grind level makes and all that stuff, and it makes a difference. And it's you can, just like anything else, you can get way deep into it.
Oh yeah.
um,
Well, and the thing is, and we'll go into this in a little. Just a quick background is the same
Sure.
thing. I was very happy with my K cup, my Major Dickinson's, 2 cups a day, and I'm going. Well, then I started watching Dave do the pour overs and everything else, and talking about going big. So I started doing my research on espresso machines, and I went, and the next thing I know, I'm dropping $1,000 on a Breville. I don't know. It does pretty much everything, but I wanted to make sure I could still do the work myself. And as these guys will tell you, and including our audience, I think latte art is some type of magic that nobody really knows how to do, that they just fake it, because I've tried and tried and tried, and it just does not work. So that leads into the first question to you, Greg. So when you're looking at roasting, because I've done roasting on I went on Amazon when these guys started roasting, and I bought one of those, what I call, what looks like a Jiffy Pop popcorn popper,
Yeah.
and put the beans in there and went out to the gas grill and just started shaking. And all of a sudden things started crackling like it was the 4th of July, and there's beans going everywhere. The dog's getting burnt by stuff. And I did that a few times, and I went, that's a lot of work. So so when you're talking about roasting, the green beans, and then going, can you go with a specific coffee? I assume you can go from a light roast to a medium roast to a dark roast, all within that same bean, based on how you roast it. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So there's the roasting process is pretty much the same, but each bean has different characteristics. And so when you start buying coffee from the big boys, they press a button and they walk away, and it's done the way they want that bean done. What I do is it's called an artisan style. So I have to pay attention, and I'm listening. I'm watching the temperature. I'm watching the time, and I'm listening to the process. Because when you're roasting coffee, if you want to do something that's like a light roast, there's two sets of cracks in coffee. There's what they call a first crack, which is like popcorn, and it sounds like popcorn popping, which is what you were experiencing.
Hmm.
And that's more when you hit that first crack, that's like a light roast. But if you take that same bean and you get to the second crack, that's where it sounds more like Rice Krispies over milk. And that is where the molecular structure starts changing. And the oils from the inside of the bean move to the exterior of the bean. So when you buy your coffee from Pete's that's over roasted all the time, it's really oily. That's deep into the second crack. So you can roast any bean to any level, and you're going to get different flavor profiles based on your roast. So,
Interesting.
yeah, when you read something like you hear about citrus and berries in a coffee bean, you're not going to get those in your dark roast like the true man, like you said, drinks. The dark roast is less caffeinated too. You want to be a real man, go lighter. So and drink robusta.
Well, I guess the reason why I say that is we have a local roaster that we go to here. I don't know. It's a local artisan roaster by the name of Raging Sage, and
Yeah.
we don't use their. It's a darker roast that we use for like the espresso machine, but like regular coffee and stuff like that. But being in the shaving part where I know the notes of soaps and fragrances and stuff like that. That's what really interests me because I sent Dave some, and I got his blend from you, and it talks about the berries and stuff like that. And you're right, the lighter the roast, even though it doesn't have that smack in the back of the throat like a dark roast will, you can taste it better. So I will agree with him on that. And we don't agree very often, but
Well, so the other thing that I learned, and I taught my parents about this, who like to drink hot coffee, is that if you're drinking hot coffee, you're not getting the flavor either. If you're into it for the flavor, you got to let it cool down a little bit, right? And the flavors evolve uh, over time, right?
Well, that's one of the things that like on cold brew, like people like iced coffee and cold brew. What I love about cold brew is it soaks up all those flavors and it takes a long time to produce. It's like 18 to 24 hours to make a good cold brew, but you get all those flavors because they get a long time to marinate together. And I enjoy it. It's not what I go to all the time, but you will get a lot of those flavors because it is cooler and it also takes a long time for them to marinate, you know?
So that brings up a question then, Greg. So if you buy a cold brew coffee, okay, and I'm assuming you buy a cold brew coffee, could you heat that cold brew up and still get some of the notes that you would when it's less temperature?
Probably. I've never really tried that, but probably. When you do cold, there's two kinds. There's cold brew and there's what people iced coffee, and all iced coffee is watered down hot coffee. All those machines that you see out there that they produce cold brew, it's just hot coffee. But if you do a true cold brew and heat it up, I might have to try that. I don't know.
I thought that might. I'm thinking about it. That wouldn't be a bad idea. Real quick before we get to, because the people are pouring questions out like crazy, but real quick, do you ship nationwide or worldwide?
Both.
Okay. Well, there's going to be a lot of people here that are going to be very interested in your stuff.
We ship nationwide. In fact, our first year in existence, we shipped to every state in the United States and several in Canada. We missed, I think, 5 in our first year because of all of the social media. So we went crazy. So we have a subscription model as well as just straight orders. We ship all over the country. I've shipped to Mexico, Alaska, Hawaii, Canada. I've shipped to Israel, the Philippines, all over the place.
Now, do you source, because I assume that, to get the flavor profiles that you want in a specific coffee or whatever you're working on, do you source from all over the world as well? And does that, mean that you're traveling or?
I brought some back from Kauai. I made sure to that. So if I'm traveling, I want to go to a coffee farm. I source a lot through brokers locally. There's if I buy the large bags of coffee, they're in one of 4 warehouses in the Oakland area, we'll say, and most of the farmers have brokers that they're connected with, and I'll find the coffee I want, and then I'll find the broker that's connected with it to buy that, to source that. And then I also work with a couple other places back east that will break things down, because one of the things that we have that nobody else has is a very, very, very large offering. I don't know anybody in the country that has an offering as large as ours, and everything's freshly roasted. So I keep a very broad inventory so people can try coffees from Uganda, Kenya, Costa Rica. I've got some high end stuff that's not even on my menu from Kona, Columbia Geisha, the Bali or the Jamaican Blue, and those are pretty high end, expensive coffees. But I roast them to order, and we make sure people get a true coffee experience when they get coffee from us.
Now,
Yeah.
do you recommend folks try roasting themselves? But because I know that I saw on your website that you guys sell the green coffee as well.
Yeah, we do. Do I recommend it? If you're interested in like I was, I want people to learn. I mean, what I'm moving into right now, since we opened our facility in Concord, is I'm going to start doing classes so I can teach people about coffee and the aspects of coffee, and then allow them to actually roast their own coffee so they can experience it. I think everyone should try it. It's not easy. Trust me, I set my fire alarm off in the house more times than I care to say when I first started because I didn't know anything about it. But as I've gotten pretty good about it through the year, I mean, I make a very good product. Um,
Well,
it's
and for
it,
anybody's interested that's listening right now, we just put Greg's website up on the banner, so take a look at that. We've got a lot of questions, Dave. If it's all right with you, I think I'm going to go ahead
Yeah.
and start answering, get some questions answered, Greg.
yeah.
So let's see here. Let's go down here real quick. From Tig Lily, for espresso machine grinding, recently did not use the machine. Yeah, thanks. I'll read it. I'm already halfway through. Didn't use the machine for about 10 days, and when I made the first cup, the bar pressure was really low. Is that because the beans dried out over that period of time, and they were in a hopper?
Yeah, so they're basically when I made a first cut the pressure bar. So is that in the machine itself? I actually can't answer that question. It probably was that they were over roasted and dried out. Is my first answer to that. By the way, if you want to add something up there, add Dave 23, and anybody that's on your show tonight, I will give a 20% discount. So
Oh well, thank you. God, that's
Dave,
great. One of our
except
Well, let
regular.
me let me let me ask about that because the espresso machine. What do you do yourself at home when you're making your morning coffee?
So I do all different kinds. I will do pour overs. I'll do French presses. I'll even do if I'm in a rush the drip on a just a regular coffee maker. I try them all. Every method produces a little bit different result. So there's no wrong method. Everyone's like, oh, pour over is the best or French press is the best. There's no wrong method. It's the method that you like. I look at coffee like wine tasting. There's certain things in whiskeys and just like scotches. You
Mhm.
like something that's unique. There's nothing wrong with it. I might not like the way you like it. So I do a little bit of everything. So
So that's this question, and I'll have my personal experience too. Is I do both of these
yeah,
because of convenience. I have an AeroPress in the office, which I think is great because it's very hard to over brew, if you would say, an
yeah.
AeroPress, right? I can let it sit there for 2 minutes or 5 minutes if I get busy and forget it, and it tends not to ruin it. It's probably not the right thing to do. But
Mhm.
then on the weekends, it's AeroPress, and it's kind of sounds like you said the same thing. Is it? It's not one over the other. It's what you
No,
like better.
no. Each one, like I said, will produce a little bit of a different result, but that's why I think people should try different methods. I think people should try different grind levels, different roast levels, and that's anybody that's come in and they're serious about coffee. I tell them to find a bean that they like, and Dave did a great job. Roast it several different levels and see what fits best for your palate. So.
Now I know this is from Rich, our friend Rich, and I'm not sure if it was a serious question, but I think it was. But
Well,
would there be any benefit? You know how you can smoke a bourbon, or you can smoke a Scotch a little bit more,
you can
or you can
smoke mac
smoke.
and cheese, man.
Yeah. So would there be any benefit to adding any smokiness to a coffee bean?
No, I don't think so. I think you're going to get the smokiness from the higher end of a roast, like a
Mm.
dark roast. When you roast coffee, um, the lighter the roast, you get a lot of the flavors of the bean. The darker the roast, you get more of the process. the smokiness, the darker notes. I've heard about actually people putting them on a smoker, like a cold smoke. Um, I don't know if it would do anything to make it better. I think it would actually affect the flavors of the bean. But again, it's your palate. If it's something that
Right.
you like and you like smoke, it might produce a good result.
Well,
Yeah,
that's an
that's
interesting
interesting.
thought because I don't like the bitterness that you get with the darker roast, but I love smoky. I love the smoky
Yeah.
scotches and mezcal and things like that. So if you could add smoke without bitterness, oh, that
Well,
would be
bitterness
great.
comes from two things. Bitterness comes from over roasting and the grind. So if you get too much bitterness in your coffee, but you like the taste of those beans, then dial the grind back a little bit so it
Yeah.
becomes a little less bitter because you're going to get more bitterness. Like if you are using a pour over and you use an espresso grind, you're going to get a lot of bitterness in that. So always dial it back. So there's two things you need to explore when you do that.
Now, before we go to Tig Lily's second question, I know that when we tried roasting it, I was told by these guys and some other people that, when it's in the bag, obviously you seal the bag, and then a couple hours later, the outgassing
Yeah.
start. How long do you wait until you can go ahead and do what you want to do with the coffee when
So
it's outgassing?
So it's called degassing, and when you like for example, I'll show you one of our bags right here. We have a valve on the back right there on all of our bags, and if you're a coffee, I'll say if you're a coffee snob, you could if you drink coffee. Hey, this guy right here. That's what. If you're a coffee snob and you drink coffee right after it's roasted, you might get some of the gassiness of the beans. It takes 48 to 72 hours to let it completely degas if they're a whole bean. If you grind them, it could be just a few hours. I mean,
Oh,
seriously,
okay.
if you order them ground or you get them ground, it just accelerates that process faster.
Now,
So
is this speaking of that? Is this a myth or a non-myth? Because I've heard it both ways. Some people say always get whole bean versus ground.
absolutely,
Okay, so that
absolutely.
is true. Okay,
When you whole bean, so beans stay fresh, freshly roasted. And that's why we roast ours to order. 30 days. So the optimal time to drink coffee after it's been roasted is 72 hours after it's been roasted to the next 3 weeks. I usually say 30 days. After 30 days, the flavors decline a little bit. And after 60 days, they're just flat. So all those things you read about, the citrus and the berry, those are gone. And you have a flat coffee. It's not bad coffee. It's just you don't get the amazing benefits of freshly roasted coffee.
so it doesn't make sense to order in bulk then,
No,
obviously.
I don't think people should unless you're drinking 7 pots a day, like some people.
And
Um,
speaking of that person, so she's asking, is medium roast just before the second crack?
Medium roast, it is at about 420 degrees, and that is right before the second crack. So I usually pull my medium roast at 420, 425, and it's right before you hit the second crack. It's in between the first and the second. So
So, Greg, I've seen your roaster is huge. Well, huge compared to the little, popcorn poppers we would use at home.
yeah.
You can still hear that little the
Oh
Rice
yeah.
Krispies that you're talking about, and
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I hear it. It's there just as loud. I'm also roasting 15 pounds compared to two, so a big difference.
although the little thing I had took 4 batches to do a pound, so it
Yeah,
was like a several hour process, which why I buy from you now. Yeah.
we started our company off of what they call a B-more, which is a toaster oven, and this toaster oven is a round basket that with an infrared light. And when we started it, it took me 15 minutes to roast 1 pound of coffee, and I'm like, oh, I can't do this. So then I got our first 2 pound roaster, which took probably about 6 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes to roast a pound, and then we bought our 15-pound roaster, and I can do 15 pounds in 10 minutes. So
Wow.
it's amazing. Do I sell
Wait, wait,
green?
wait. Well,
Uh,
you can do it in what how long did you say?
in my big roaster, I can do 15 pounds in 10 minutes.
In
Wow.
10 minutes, and so I mean I guess I'm surprised to hear that I would think that if you're going that quick that there's like a not like if you're doing a marshmallow and you're
Yeah.
doing the s'mores and you're doing it right where you're slowly doing it so it gets a little toasty brown, it heats all the way through consistently. Right, Dave? You know what I'm talking about.
I know you're
Versus
just hungry.
you put it in the fire too close and it gets crispy on the outside and the inside is still hard as heck. You would think that there's still this time constraint that it takes, but no, I guess, huh?
Well, you're talking about a bigger space with a lot more heat. I mean, I got a double walled drum roaster, so you're talking a full room of heat. So think of it like a convection oven. I mean, it's going to go faster, heat faster. And then, so, and again, this process is the same. You have to still pay attention because you can. I've batched. I've screwed up 10 pounds at a time because I went too far, and I'm like, it's not that it's wrong or it's bad, but it wasn't what I was trying to produce. And when I do that, I don't sell it. That's mine. That's my coffee that I consume. So
Oof, you get the seconds.
I get the seconds or the extras. So there's a question: do you sell decaf? I don't sell the green beans decaf. I've got a very, very, very large selection. I say very large. I probably have about 10 different decafs that I roast. And so I literally I've got a larger selection. And freshly roasted decaf actually is amazing. The decaf you buy at the store is garbage, but when you have it freshly roasted, it is amazing. If
So
someone is
wait,
interested,
before you answer this one, I promised that I wouldn't call you out. So he will never admit it, but this is his favorite coffee that he roasts, the Nurse Dave's breakfast blend. Yeah,
Oh
buddy.
man,
We
how
know
big
we
of a
know
check had to be written for that one?
but let me say, what's really
I've had
cool
it.
is
It is very good. I've had it.
that he gets to know your style if you order from him frequently. And last time I said, hey, throw in a pound of something you think I'm going to like. And this where's my camera here? I don't. I guess we can't see the Kenya Double A Select Plus. This is my new favorite, Greg. I
is
love
that
this.
not good?
You hit it out of the park.
I
But
knew
you
I
have
knew
your
that.
own roast too. That's the what do you call it? The morning.
So I have a morning motivation that I did. That's
Gotcha.
actually a combination of the Kenyan that you had. I do like this one a lot. I like Central America, South America coffee mostly, like a good Colombian. But I've been gravitating towards the Kenyan, which how I created this blend. I actually have been enjoying a Sumatra. The Sumatras are pretty amazing. I've got one that's a Manhelling, which is amazing. Um, I don't have a favorite, but I gravitate towards Central to South America mostly. If
Now,
I'm
what's a characteristic of that area then?
you're going to get a lot of more of the fruitier notes, citrusy notes in that area. I just tend to like. I don't. I roast past those notes, but I like the balance. I like it's a good balanced coffee from Brazil, from Colombia, from Costa Rica. Those are the ones that I tend to gravitate more to. But I do in. Uh-oh.
Sorry.
I thought I set off an alarm.
No, it was me setting off an alarm.
But I do enjoy the African ones as well. I have a one from Bali that's really amazing. So I will say my favorite Central South America, but I am not partial. I love coffee, so I get to try some of the most amazing coffees every day. So
Well, I'm going to jump ahead. We've got some other questions. I'm going to jump there because it kind of falls in with what you were just talking about. So
mhm.
this one right here.
Beans from the Big Island are still, yeah, very much so. I will sell a pound of, or actually say, when I sell a pound, if you look at the store, you'll see that most of the stuff is 12 ounces. And the reason a lot of it's 12 ounces is you are roasting a pound of coffee. And when you roast a pound of raw coffee, what's produced is not a pound. So when you're roasting in the beginning, you're calculating a pound. What comes out could be 12 ounces, could be 13 ounces, could be 14
Wow.
ounces. So depending on the level that you're roasting. So they settled on 12 ounces. That's why you see a lot of bags that say 12 ounces. So when you look at a pound of coffee of a Big Island Kona Premium, I'll sell that for almost $100. Depending if I like you or not. If I don't like you,
Wow.
it might be 120. If I do like you, it's probably like 90.
Now that with Dave's question about asking about the South American blends and stuff like that, what makes it so premium? Is it because the growing conditions are just perfect? The rarity of the bean? What makes it So
So
premium.
in both Kona, or I'll say Big Island, because Kauai produces. They've got 3,100 acres of. They're the largest producer of coffee in America
Wow.
in Kauai, which I did not know that until I
Hmm.
actually went to Kauai. And I don't think Dave went on that tour. If he did, he would have known that answer. But in the Big Island, they don't produce that much. So when you look at Kona and you look at Jamaican, a lot of it is the cost to cultivate it, the cost to transport it from there to everywhere else. You're in the soil alone, and the cost of the land is so expensive, and you're dealing with the volcanic ash, so they charge a premium. In Jamaica, 80% of the beans that they produce go to Japan, so 20% is for the rest of the world, and each one is hand inspected, hand picked. It's a natural process. They are it's on a mountainside. It's a flat area, so that's why they call it Jamaica, the Jamaica Blue Mountain.
Hmm.
It's all on a mountainside, so it's not a very easy area to cultivate. So they charge a premium. Their beans are very, very good. I won't say they're not good. I will tell you there are equally as good coffee beans in other countries that are similar, that are a fraction of the price.
Wow. So let's talk about the big elephant, or in this case, the big cat in the room,
Yeah.
Kopi Luwak,
Oh, the civet.
the civet. Yes.
Don't waste your money.
Okay.
I keep following my dog, and I try to pick up his what he's done, and I'm going to start something new.
Well,
So
we've got you covered, Greg, because our dog's name is Kona.
done. I'm done. I'm telling you, I'm going to charge. I'm going to charge a fraction of the price. It's going to be great. They actually have one out right now. I was just watching. It's a tea, and it's done by birds and what they extract, and they're making that into a tea. I'm sorry. I mean, I've heard amazing things. I have not tried it. I've had
We
friends who have
did.
tried it.
We
Huh?
did try it. We did buy
And
some. We did buy the Kopi Luwak, and it was like, and the reason why we bought it is because of that movie with Morgan Freeman
oh yeah,
and Jack Nicholson. So we said, what
Interesting.
the heck? So we bought, a bag that's about this big,
yeah.
and it was like we looked at each other and went, eh.
It's not worth it. It's just
No.
it's almost like a novelty, and I don't think it's again. You're paying for the process. You're
Mhm.
not paying for the coffee that it produces. You're paying for the process of how it's produced.
Right.
So
Now, so this next question, but before we go there, you also doing teas, which we can touch on a little bit later, correct?
I do no, I do dabble a little bit in teas. I don't have any on my menu. I
Oh,
could.
okay.
We've been asked a lot. I do have a connection, and we've been talking more about bringing it in. So not today, but maybe in the future.
Okay.
So I'm
So the
curious, you're talking about cost of production, and you've got this question here about shifting away from kind of, I guess, the big bulk producers. And I'm curious if this is true because, one of my other hobbies is kind of collecting Napa wines, but I know in the wine industry, it's like 95% of the wines purchased in the United States are under $10 a bottle or
Mhm,
something like
mhm.
that. So if you're buying anything, above that, you're kind of still in the elite area, not even getting close to 100 or $200 a bottle. So
Mhm.
in terms of coffee, how much of the industry really is shifting away from like the instant coffees or the pre-ground bulk produced stuff? Is that
It's it's
significant?
it's it's growing rapidly each year. I mean, it's coffee. Craft coffee is almost becoming like craft beer, and I've been pushing. And if you've seen my content, I preach me a little, but I just preach specialty roasters in general. In fact, I posted something today because it's becoming a big deal. A lot of people are tired of Starbucks and the Pete's and the chains, and they like it, but everybody that drinks it, I tell them, just accept that you are going to a fast food coffee chain. That's all it
right.
is, and it's okay. But they don't want to sell you coffee. They want to sell you the sugars. They want to sell you the drinks, the frappuccinos, all the other stuff.
Hmm.
Where you go back to a traditional a coffee roaster, especially coffee roaster, they want to sell you coffee. They want to sell you high quality coffee. They want to sell you a good product, a fresh product, and people are starting to learn the difference. And when you try a coffee like Dave, I mean, he tried my coffee, and
Mhm.
once you get hooked on freshly roasted, it's hard to go back. You can
Right.
tell the difference, and
Okay, but let me just because it's just the three of us, right? So
well,
we can be honest.
okay.
Um, so
Don't
just
make our guest mad.
I feel
well,
like I need a
Don't
cocktail.
make our guest mad.
hold on, take a shot here. Um, well, so no, but honestly, one thing I've been curious about because you're saying it's expanding like crazy, and you do see coffee roasters popping up all over the place. And we all know that you don't personally grow the coffee.
Mm-mm.
So, how much of a difference w- do you impart in what you sell versus the 17 other guys down the road that are buying the same beans to start with?
Well, the 17. Well, are you talking about the 17 other coffee roasters, or are you talking about the big chains?
No, the other roaster, because you can there's got to be hundreds now online, right? That you can buy small batch
Absolutely.
roasted coffee from.
Absolutely. There are tons of people out there that are roasting coffee, and each one of them has their own style. Each one of them does it differently. I'm connected with a lot of people on social media. Some do an air roast method, which makes it less acidic sometimes, or at least they say that.
Hmm.
Some people just have different styles, and then there's just the people out there that are roasting and selling, and they're gonna have large batches. Each person will find what their niche is and go after it. I think there are a lot of roasters out there. Yes, I think a lot of roasters are out there thinking they're going to make a quick buck. I'm Me personally am not into that. I'm more into educating and bringing a good product out that people have not experienced before. I'm into something that's a little bit more unique. We have such a large offering. When you go to the big chains or even some of the smaller roasters, they might have like just 5 beans. That's it. That's all. And
Mhm.
what I want to do is give people the opportunity to try single origins from around the world. I want them to try coffee from different countries that those other people don't have. They're buying it from Brazil from the same brokers that I am, but they're only buying their allotment. I want to make
Mhm.
sure you get an experience from anywhere.
Well, let me ask you. Bring that up because you're familiar with Raging Sage, the local one that we have here. But I noticed that with Raging Sage, they've always been a coffee shop as well as a roaster. So to me, the part of the differentiation is that you guys don't have a coffee shop per se, correct? So all you do is roasting. And another thing that keyed in was the fact that you get to know the customer as their tastes. And to me, that's one of the most unique things because even with us supporting the local roaster, we may buy coffee once a month and they have no clue who we are. I
Mhm.
mean, and I'm not saying that's a negative thing. They've got other customers, but I like the fact that really, when it really comes down to it, you're in a way, almost a bespoke coffee roaster in a way.
Mhm.
I would,
Absolutely.
and that,
Absolutely.
that's huge. And I got to say one thing, and this is a compliment, since Dave was going to try to take you down the primrose path on something else. Now it's my turn. You know that you look like an extremely young, good-looking Mel Brooks. And that's a compliment because he's
I
one
have
of my
not.
favorites.
I've never heard Mel Brooks, but I will take that. I'll take it.
Well, just think of
I,
Young Frankenstein
oh
and
my
all
god!
his movies. But now I noticed on your website, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but you offer your coffee blends in K cups. Is that true?
So we do reusable K cups, and so
Okay,
K cups are the one of the worst things for. There's a lot of reasons why they're bad. You've heard about the environmental issues.
sure.
If I would put it into K cups, if I could do a couple things, find something that's environmentally friendly, and there are some out there, but they are expensive.
Hmm.
We preach freshness, and the stuff you get in the K cups are the oldest coffee in the market. Period, and they usually use lesser quality beans in those K cups. So you're not
Okay.
getting high quality beans in the K cup. So that's why we offer the reusables. We tell people take that extra step. You're going to have a better experience. I get the process. The process is easy. You should still do the process, but don't use freshly roasted coffee in reusable K cups or
Okay.
reusable.
That's a
Um,
good. That's a really good thing. Dave has a question here for you, Greg.
Yes, Dave, on the grind recommendation, anything that's a burr grinder. I actually have the Brun burr, their commercial burr grinders. Get burr grinders. Do not get blade grinders. When you grind your coffee, you want to have consistency throughout the grind. Blade grinders are not going to give you the consistency, so you're going to have inconsistent cups of coffee over and over. So buy a burr grinder. Cuisinart makes one if you want something that's cheap. I sell some high-end ones from Fellow that are designed for pour overs and espresso, called the Opus. They're excellent, but they are pricey, and I highly recommend investing in a good grinder. But stay away
I'd
from.
say you get the Ode because it's sexy as heck.
I do
And
have
when
the
you're talking about, you know, uh, experience, sexy's part of it.
Yes, yes. I have. You've seen some of my pictures on my videos on social media. I have the Ode. I have the Fellows pour over kettle.
Yep.
That's great. It holds the temperature for an hour, so you can do some good pour overs consistently. Just have fun with it. You want to geek out. I have the stuff to let you geek out. So
Espresso milkshake.
It
Well,
sounds
that'd be
actually
good.
really, really
that
good.
actually
Yeah.
sounds really good. I did just try a. I created. I did. Everyone's the new thing isn't the espresso milkshake. The new thing is olive oil in your coffee.
Oh,
They
I mean, I've heard of butter
I
because
saw
I've
you
been on
do that.
keto, and on keto they say put butter in it, put butter in it.
Starbucks has what they call the alietto that they started because in Italy they put a teaspoon of extra virgin olive oil, and Starbucks has absolutely killed that whole thought. It's disgusting. So,
Well, a quick story about Starbucks. They came back in winter of, this must have been 2020, 2021. They came out with a juniper latte. And
okay,
it was tremendous if you're into juniper. But the
yeah.
bad part about it, like you said, with these big companies, they listen to feedback and costs. And everybody says, why do I want my coffee to taste like I just gnawed on a pine tree? So that was the end of it.
I like pine trees.
I do too. In fact, I went as far, and and a certain person here knows this. I went to every single Starbucks in Southern Arizona to buy their juniper syrup so I could make it myself. I
All right.
mean, and yeah, so it's yeah.
Well, I have not tried an espresso milkshake. That does sound delicious. I actually have a
Well, it's kind of like
a
what is it, affogato, where it's espresso on ice
affogato.
cream.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
pour an espresso over the vanilla
yeah.
ice cream.
It's just a quart of that.
And also, P Beat says you also look like the Detroit Tigers' Alkaline.
Okay, I haven't heard that one either. I've heard John Ritter.
Oh, there you go. I didn't even think about that one.
Well, no one knows who he is anymore.
Well, yeah. So here's another good question for you, Greg.
Does your business model allow you to branch out more in terms of variety versus a bigger group that must allocate a certain percentage to one kind of meat? So, my business model allows me to add variety, and I have very good relationships with the people that I buy a lot of my bulk beans. So I buy a lot of bulk beans in like my Colombian, my Brazilian, Bali, Kenya, Sumatra, that the stuff I use in my blends. But I will tell you, I am starting to feel a little pressure on the breadth because I buy smaller quantities of the other items, and it's not that it's because of my business model. I think it's just because of the pressures economically on a lot of the people sourcing. I'm starting to see that it's harder for me to get some of the beans that I was usually getting very easily. So
Mm.
there is some economic pressure right now. I think it'll get fixed, but it's still affecting.
Now, in your opinion, based on that, are you seeing, because I know obviously from what you said, you're very environmentally conscious. Are you seeing that the environment is also creating issues, whether it be weather, and I know that's a can of worms in itself, but whether it be weather or other environmental concerns that are limiting the growers and what they can produce on an annual basis, or
There was some weather issues last year on the last year's crops, especially in Brazil. There was lack of water and drought that did affect a lot of the coffee. So you're going to see a lot of that impact over now. But a lot of the coffees that come out of Brazil are Arabica beans. They need a lot of the water and that tropical moisture. You'll start seeing probably more Robusta coffees, which are a little bit more denser, a little bit more hardier and drought resistant. So you'll see things like that. So that's some of it. That's not all of it. I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of the we'll say it, the result of what we went through the last couple of years of the pandemic.
Now, one thing that I'm sure you've heard this, and I know Dave and I have heard this, but you once you become, it seems like you go through levels. You go through, okay, I drink Folgers, then I drink something else, and I drink this, and then it seems like there's a cliff that you jump off of, and you look back at the Folgers, and you look back and said, I will never see you again. I am a coffee snob now. So what happens is when you're talking to somebody and they say, what kind of coffee you like? And they'll say Colombian, everybody's brain immediately goes to Folgers. But is there any truth to the fact that Colombian coffee is any less good, so to speak, than any other coffee?
Not at all. Colombian coffee. I'll tell you, I've got coffees from every country and each one produces something uniquely good. So you just got to find the one that works the best for you. So, but Colombian is a very good coffee.
Yeah.
So.
I'm gonna comment on this question, then you can answer the actual question. I'll say if you're interested in anything that Greg's talked about, he is excellent at responsiveness. If you shoot out an email, you mentioned once that you have things that are not on your website because they're pretty
Yes.
premium and they're expensive, and you can just ask for that list and you'll send it out to anybody.
Yep,
But
absolutely.
you mentioned you bought Kona coffee when you were there. How can PB get in on that?
Well, I didn't buy Kona while I was there. I bought Kauai coffee. I have some from Kauai, which actually was very, very good. I tried their coffee. I actually spoke to the general manager there. I'm very impressed with his outfit, but his coffee's outstanding. And if you want some of that, all you got to do is send me a message. You can throw my email up here. It's greg@berksbeans.com. And I
You
am
got that, Dave?
Yep.
You send me an email. I usually respond pretty fast.
So that being said, I'm asking
For a friend?
I'm asking for a friend. So if there is a piece of property, let's say among the Hawaiian island chains that is for sale, but part of the caveat is that it's got a 7-acre coffee plantation and you must have the employees stay on. Is that something worth looking at for a friend? I'm asking.
I don't know if I want to. I don't know. I think I would
work. I want to visit.
I would run.
Okay.
Growing coffee is not as. It doesn't seem as enjoyable as roasting the coffee.
Right.
It's a lot of work. I mean, it's and if you have one bad crop with 7 acres, you're in trouble. So
I felt it was kind of a one of those let me think about that moment.
I have a friend who's in the mainlands, and she and I just all through social media, and she wants to get into the coffee. She has plants, and then she's getting into the coffee business, but they had to cut them down. They had to cut them down to let them regrow. Well, that's going to take another year to 2 to 3 years to produce the beans that you need. So I would stay away unless you really want to go through the labor of love. So.
Well, okay, now that brings up another question. Do you find, can people grow? Can they grow? Do you find home growers and home roasters just, small little people that do it for themselves? Not at all, huh?
No. So what you very rarely, there's a band around the globe and it's around the equator and it's 22 degrees south and 22 degrees north of the globe, of the equator. And that is the coffee band. And anything in that band that's where you grow coffee. So that's why you don't see coffee in Canada. You don't see coffee in Russia, but that it's slowly becoming 22 to 23 degrees. So there's 2 regions.
Uh-oh, did we lose you, Greg?
And this is a question. Let's see if
Oh, there you go. You're back, kind of.
2 states. One of them, but what's the other one?
Hold on, Greg. We got you.
Okay, Greg. I think you're back. There was sort of some latency issues.
Oop, did I lose you guys?
Yeah, we lost you when you start talking about the expansion of the area where you can grow it.
Oh, so there's 22 degrees around, or 20 degrees around the globe, or I should say the equator, north and south. That's the band of the coffee region. and it's slowly getting to be 22 to 23 degrees. And that's now allowed 2 states in the United States to grow coffee. One of them, but do you know what the other one is? States they
So
grow coffee.
so one of them I assume is California.
California is the second state, and of course, Hawaii is the other one. From
Okay.
Santa Barbara down to San Diego, they've now been able
Yeah.
to grow coffee because of the climate change, and
Oh.
it's slowly becoming a little further north on that coffee band, and it's
So,
become one of the most expensive coffees you can get your hands on.
wow. So we can
Yeah.
see Juan Nurse Dave pretty soon with his own
Well,
grow
it's
down in
got to be the most
California.
expensive because of the labor costs, right? You got
Sure.
to pay California
Labor,
labor to
land,
pick that stuff.
absolutely. A lot of
Well, so
people that have land, they've actually contracted out to let people grow the beans on their property, but they don't do the work.
so it sounds a lot because it's a lot like wine. Then you've
Yeah.
got that region around the world because just south of us in the Sonoita Patagonia area of Arizona, they produce some amazing wines. But if you take that latitude and longitude and go across the globe, it seems like it's in that same type of region. So coffee works the
Absolutely.
same way.
Well, and I
Absolutely.
was going to say the same thing. I'd be perfectly happy if they rip up all those terrible wine vines that they've got in Southern California and replant it with coffee. I'm fine with that. Um, we're getting close to an
Wine
hour.
snob talking.
Eh, you know, we have our likes. I want to mention before we start wrapping up, remind everybody that we are broadcasting on Dave's shaving channel, my shaving channel, just until we get enough members of
Mhm.
Drinks and Dave's, our own YouTube channel for the show. So please, if you like this, go subscribe there so we can switch over the conversation to that. And here's another question: is fair trade a key indicator? I think this is kind of a controversial
No, actually,
topic.
fair trade is something that I do pay attention to. A lot of people look at fair trade and fair. They go to there's different designations in coffee, like organic, for example. Um, I don't pay attention to organic as much, believe it or not, because a lot of the coffees are organic, even though they don't say it. Because a lot of the countries that it comes from, they're very poor. They can't pay for the certification or the chemicals,
Yeah.
but they can't call it organic unless you go through the process. So believe it or not, a lot of non-organic, or when it doesn't say organic coffee, is organic. I don't pay attention to organic as much because it's kind of I won't call it a scam, but you got to pay for it to get that label. Fair trade is very important to me. You want to make sure people are getting paid fairly for their product, that they're getting paid to cultivate, to grow. You don't want the people just, you don't want sweatshops
Sure,
for
sure.
the growers. So I pay more attention to that than I do, believe it or not, organic.
That's interesting. One thing we want to say to our audience too is make sure you go over to Greg's website. It's an amazing website there. You can spend hours on it. He's got great merchandise and everything else. And as Dave said, both of these are live streamed on Barber Dave Shaves and Such and Nurse Dave Shaving World, and then will be posted on our Drinks and Dave's channel. And we'll include the links,
Thank you.
including Greg's email to his stuff in here. And I, for one, Greg, cannot thank you enough.
Yeah,
This has been fantastic
my
because
pleasure.
as a coffee freak that I never was before, and now I'm so much more. It's nice to talk to somebody who's actually doing it,
Absolutely.
and the business model that you have, I think, is just it's really incredible when you think about it. Because in today's world, where you've got the Amazons, you've got this and that, to find a bespoke, for lack of a better term, a bespoke coffee roaster that'll get to know you as a person and what you like is huge. Is huge. So I
Oh,
want
I
to thank you for
appreciate it.
that.
No, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Make sure you include that discount code, Dave23. So anybody that comes from this has a discount code of 20% off of.
Oh, and real quick, Greg, and we can put this also in the links. I assume you have Facebook, YouTube,
I'm on
Instagram.
either Berk's Beans or Berk's Beans Coffee. It's one or the other. But I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm on. Am I missing one?
Do you have a YouTube channel?
I have a YouTube channel. I don't use it as much as you guys do. I do have a YouTube channel. I've got Twitter. We've got them all. So you just hit Berk's Beans or Berk's Beans Coffee. You'll either find my face or my logo. So you'll find Mel Brooks
Like
or you'll
it or
find
not.
Berk's Beans.
Mel Brooks, or a plethora of other stars that that Greg is. So,
Absolutely.
but anyhow, thank you so much, Dave. Some closing thoughts.
No, I also want to thank everybody that's joined in and kept the chat lively and put all your questions in there. It makes it much more fun when it's interactive like this. And again, a great thank you, Greg. And,
Thank you, Greg. We certainly appreciate it. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us at Drinks and Dave's. And we will see you probably next week. Greg, thanks again.
Thanks.
Take care, everybody.
See ya.